Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Tom with Capo Fetish. So, I have a question for all of you, including myself. Why do we still have records on our shelves that we have not listened to in years, perhaps decades, right? Is it sentimental reasons? Is it nostalgia? What is it that we can't let go of certain records? So, throughout the years, periodically, I've purged, stacks of albums to make room for other albums. There comes a point though where there just isn't any more room for more albums. So you just have to purge, right? So I have a stack here I've pulled from the shelf. This stack of records I have not listened to in 30 plus years, right? These are all albums I used to loved them for a certain amount of time, but then all of a sudden I just put them away, never looked at them, never played them again. It just kind of shows you too how some music transcends space and time. Other music just it's only around for a particular moment in time in your lives. So I'm going to start it off here with an album. I have not heard this album in probably close to 40 years. This is a band that I saw open for The Alarm at the Hollywood Palladium back in 1984. It's a group called the Ryders. Remember the Ryders? The leader of the band, Sid Griffin, big Birds fan. He's written several books about Graham Parsons, and I think there was one done about Dylan, maybe even bluegrass. Very, very well-known historian as well as a musician. So I saw them open for The Alarm at the Palladium back in '84. Thought they were amazing. Obviously reminding me a lot of the Byrds because I'm a huge Byrds fan. They also had some other influences in there. I heard a little bit of Clash and some other influences. Love this album, played it for a long time, stuck it back on the shelf. So what to do? What to do with this album, right? Should I listen to it again? Will it even register with me at this point in my life? Or should I just purge it? Perhaps I'll take one more listen and then decide at that point. Speaking of The Alarm, I saw The Alarm open for U2 back at the LA Sports Arena back in 1983. Had no idea who The Alarm was. Blew me away. I was probably up to that point the greatest opening act I've ever seen for a major act. So as soon as I heard them, this EP was available at that time. Ran out and bought this EP, played it to death. It was a track that got a lot of airplay on MTV called The Stand. Another great song on here called Marching On. I had not heard this record though in probably close to 40 years. I just kind of fell out with this act. And then a year later, their full-length album came out, Declaration. Played this a lot as well. But by the time the indie scene kind of started in the mid-'80s with R.E.M. and the Smiths and everything, this kind of music for me was kind of passé at this point. This kind of, what would you call it? Socially conscious, kind of borderline pompous type of stuff. So I think this may need to be purged. The Alarm EP and the Alarm album here. So now speaking of U2, here's the tour that I saw The Alarm open for U2 on, the War Tour. Saw this in June of 1983. I saw this performance of U2 the day after I graduated high school. So this has been 1983, June 1983. Up to this point, I'd seen U2 probably about 4 times, I believe, 3 or 4 times. I saw them once at the Country Club in Reseda. I saw them at the Santa Monica Civic in '81, and then later on in the year, I saw them at the Hollywood Palladium promoting the album October. So by the time this album came out, they had already played the US Festival about a month prior. They had opened up for Jay Giles back in '82. I didn't see that show. So I was very, very worked up to see the show. And this is the first time U2 played in actual sizable venue. Before that, it was just smaller venues. They were just starting to get a little more popular. The song New Year's Day was getting heavy airplay back in about spring of '83, and then Sunday Bloody Sunday. So more of a following was starting, and I think by the time I got into the arena, I think about 3/4 of the place was full. It was a general admission on the floor, just packed. I was up in the loge area with a friend of mine. It was really cool to see U2 the day after I graduated high school. One of the most amazing performances I had ever seen up to that point. And at one point in the show, we were sitting in the loge section, and during the song The Electric Company, Bono came out with his flag waving, and he ran out to the crowd, and he ended up running past these people and running down our aisle. So I ended up running after Bono and squeezing myself through this crowd of people. and ending up shaking his hand and holding onto his hand while he was singing in the other hand with his microphone. It was the most amazing thing. As the song was concluding, he had jumped off the rail of the balcony, or should I say the loge section of the LA Sports Arena. I remember patting him on the head before he jumped off the balcony. The crowd carried him off to the stage. It was an incredible performance. So why am I bringing this album up? Well, I haven't listened to it since about 1985. New Year's Day has been played to death. Sunday Bloody Sunday. I can't even stomach U2 anymore. I despise the band. Why am I holding on to this record? Maybe it's just pure nostalgia, right? Nostalgia for a simpler time in life. Nostalgia for a great show. I mean, I don't know. It may have to be purged at some point, but I never liked anything after the Unforgettable. Actually, I didn't like anything after this album. I loved the first album, boy. October was great. I even liked this album, and I can't even listen to this album anymore. So I think I've been holding on to it for just mainly nostalgia reasons, but it may at some point need to be purged. Summer of 1976, a friend of mine in the neighborhood, we were huge Beatle freaks, so he had an 8-track copy of the Wings at the Speed of Sound album, and we played this all summer long. I think at one point the 8-track was becoming kind of warbly. We were playing it so much. But we were both, for some reason, really enamored by the song Beware My Love and another one called Wino Junko. We thought those songs were just the shit. We kept playing them over and over and over. So when I pulled this album off the shelf, I decided to play these songs here in 2024. And I don't know what the hell we were thinking. I mean, those songs are just maybe to 11-year-olds' ears at the time. But yeah, at this point in my life, I don't know. I think this album needs to be purged. Not one of McCartney's best. Of course, it has Silly Love Songs, one of his worst hits, Let 'Em In. I don't really find anything redeeming about it. I don't know why I'm holding on it. Again, I think it's just nostalgia. So, another band, too, I really liked right off the bat. Saw them at the Roxy in 1986. That group is 10,000 Maniacs. This is their album, The Wishing Chair. Played this thing to death. But as fast as I became enamored with this band, I slowly started to really despise Natalie Merchant's voice, or something about her voice I really found annoying after a while. I did buy the next album, In My Tribe, which is a pretty good album, but by the time her solo album came out, I just became completely disinterested in anything Natalie Merchant or 10,000 Maniacs. And I haven't heard this album in probably close to maybe 35 years or so, and I don't think I will play it again. So this will go in the purged file. Another album, too, I was really heavily into in the summer of 79. Haven't listened to it in decades, is the B-52s, their debut album. Rock Lobster, big hit at the time. I always thought of the B-52s as kind of a novelty act, and it's really amazing that they are still going. I think they're concluding some farewell shows right now, but I do recall one really good album by the B-52s I liked. I was working in a warehouse when I was going to college part-time, and they would play this album called Whammy. I think it was their third album. I really liked that album. Never owned it, though. But I have not played or put this on the turntable in, God, probably close to 40 years. I do remember Planet Claire and Dance This Mess Around. I remember that. I Ain't No Limburger and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it's still in the collection. May have to be purged. I don't know. Maybe there is a little nostalgia to keeping records. Who knows? But it may go in the purging file at one point. Another one is Dan Fogelberg's first album, Home Free. This came out in 72. I heard this a lot around the house. Brother and sisters would play this a lot. I picked up a copy in the late 70s, played it to death. But since the late 70s, I have had no interest in playing this album. I remember there was one song on here I liked a lot called Looking for a Lady. And I do remember most of the album being pretty damn good. I was never a huge fan of Dan Fogelberg, his hits and everything. But this one may have to be revisited. I think it was a pretty good singer-songwriter album, but I haven't heard it in ages, so it'll probably sound pretty fresh. So another one from 1985 is The Cult, their album called Love. Loved this album when it came out. Of course, She Sells Sanctuary was a huge hit. Huge song being played on K-Rock all the time. Other great songs in here were like Nirvana, Sister Moon, Rain, revolution. I think by the time the next album came out, I really lost interest, so I never played this album again. I think the next album was called Electric, and it sounded to me like, it sounded like AC/DC. Didn't sound anything like this album. I liked more the vibe of this album. It had more atmosphere. So I don't know why even, I don't even know why it's still on the shelf. I should probably purge this. I don't really have any interest in hearing this again. No interest at all. So this is going in the purge file. Does anybody remember a band called Love Tractor from the 80s? Once REM had success in the mid-80s, a lot of bands were coming out of Georgia. Bands like Pylon. There was another one called Guadalcanal Diary, which I saw. I had a few of their albums, saw them live. And I really like this album here called This Ain't No Outer Spaceship. Haven't heard this in decades. Pulled this out today. Doesn't really register with me anymore. I don't know what it is about music. It's just, you know, there are certain albums for you at certain times of your life. It's kind of like relationships, right? Friendships. People come and go. Albums come and go, right? And I think this is one of them. I liked it for a short period, but I think this is going in the purge file. Another one I liked a lot. Kind of reminded me of Ricky Lee Jones when this song came out. Edie Brickell and the New Bohemians, What I Am. I bought this album just based on that track. Kind of liked the whole album. Saw them at the Wiltern probably about maybe 6 months after this album came out. Great show, fantastic mix. I remember the singer-songwriter Steve Forbert opened the show. It was just a really fabulous show, but I haven't listened to this album since about 1989. So I don't know why it's still on the shelf. And again, you know, I think it was just a certain period of time. I liked this stuff, but it doesn't really apply to me anymore. So those are just a few examples of albums that I adored once, but have been ignoring for years. Let me know if you have similar issues with albums that are sitting on your shelf that you haven't listened to in years, perhaps decades, that you may need to purge or may need to listen to again to have maybe another idea of what it sounds like in the year 2024. Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. If you haven't subscribed yet and you dig the content, just press the subscribe button. Take care, everybody. Bye.